Hello, everyone. Hello, and thank you guys so much for joining us. I am here live on my Facebook platforms as well as Instagram. So, welcome, family. Thanks so much for joining me. Tonight, I am excited to have Miss Ladda Love Hawkins join me. She is the trucking industry insurance expert. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Jerry.
Yes. So, I've kind of seen you throughout the social media world, and a lot of the groups that I'm in. You're moderating in a lot of these groups, and so I really just like commend you for all the information and the platform that you have. It's a truly needed in our industry for
Thank you.
sure.
Thank you. A lot of it's
So.
really just me as I'm searching. I'm just saying I'm coming across this. Who else can benefit? So I'm learning every day
Mm.
too.
hmm Yes. So tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Sure. Again, my name's Ladda Love Hawkins. I kind of throw my middle name in there to help people pronounce my first name. It's one of those weird names. Um, I'm really new to the industry, and I really have that heart and passion to show people that this is such an industry of change that you can be new. I'm in it for 2 years. My former life, right before insurance, was in education. I was a special
Mm,
education teacher and case manager for middle school and high school. I taught both brick and mortar as well as online. And then before that, I did recruiting. That's actually what I went to school for.
Oh,
Was
wow.
yeah, it was human resources and organizational management. So I've always just liked, I think, psychology when you really think
Yes.
about how all that works. And
Mm-hmm.
like little odd jobs I had all my life were, sales related jobs, anything where I can kind of help people find solutions. A little less known fact about me: when I was married, my husband and I, we were bail bondsmen in
Okay.
Louisiana for 7 years. And then
Wow.
I actually worked 2 years in the funeral industry. So I've kind of
Interesting.
been a little bit of everywhere.
Wow.
But,
Yes.
ironically, all of that information, all those experiences really
Mm-hmm.
shaped my passion for learning more and just being in the trucking industry. And so now I'm an industry agency owner. My agency is co-owned with my sister, who has more of that underwriting background. So it's not just
Gotcha.
me kind of jumping around. I'm still,
Mm-hmm.
learning, but I am the salesperson, if you would. I explain the coverages, the concepts, and such to the general public, and she just makes sure I'm being legal.
I love it. I love it.
I
You
didn't
have somebody on
overpromise.
the team.
Yes, you
Definitely
got to have a
somebody on the team
team.
that's going to keep you legal and
Yes,
keep you
you got to
straight.
be
I
legal.
love
But yes.
it. So why trucking? Why the transportation niche? I know you kind of niched your insurance down to trucking. Tell us a little bit about that.
Insurance kind of really falls in two buckets: your personal and then your commercial. Personal really gets a bad rep. It's needed. It's very much needed. But I like to look forward. I'm kind of techie, and I enjoy reading and learning about technology. So I was just seeing a lot of changes in
Hmm.
commercial. Just the on demand type things and how things are available instantly, and all the technology behind that was really interesting to me. So on the personal side, you have like life and health, you have personal auto, everything that
Hmm.
as individuals we need.
Right.
And
Right.
again, it's a niche and it's for it, but I just really felt that that wasn't where I wanted to be. I was more curious of the business side, and as you heard, very entrepreneurial minded, and it was just
Yes.
something that just was very interesting. So with trucking, what I liked about trucking specifically, because my first intro to commercial insurance was actually working with really big companies as well as
Okay.
like national
Mm.
nonprofits and such, because I worked through a company called Insurion on the Willis Project. So they had,
Hmm.
big wealthy companies and stuff that they insured, and I was helping with accountants and bookkeepers and stuff like that, and just really kind of, it lost its flair. It was just about the numbers. It was only
Right.
about the money because they want to make sure they're getting the best value. But with
Gotcha. Gotcha.
truckers, I saw kind of that blend of that opportunity to really show someone how to make something work. And I think
Mm.
that's, even my appeal with special education was, okay, here's what we need to learn, but here's all the ways we can go about doing it. It's
Right,
not,
right,
you don't
right.
have to just make 1 plus 1 be two.
Mm-hmm.
You can have
Mm-hmm.
3 minus 2 equals 1, and
Mm-hmm.
you can
Mm-hmm.
mix it up. And that's really
Yes.
what I like about working with truckers, and especially your new ventures, because
Right.
we're kind of just linking arms and saying, let's go.
Yes.
Let's
Yes.
jump in, and I help
Yes.
keep them legal. So,
Yeah, and
you
that is phenomenal. So with trucking right now, the people are flooding the industry. Okay. Everyone is going out and purchasing a truck. Okay. Now, for those that may be just entering the industry, maybe thinking about joining the industry, like from an insurance perspective, like what, tell us what all they need to know, like some of the top things that they need to be made aware of coming into the industry.
So even though the barrier to entry is pretty low, I mean, not saying it's the most inexpensive thing to get into, but
Hmm.
there's not as many requirements. Experience still matters. So
Hmm.
even though you are thinking, I'm gonna not do anything CDL related, having a CDL licensed professional behind the wheel brings experience. So even though they're, in the case of box trucks or like your dualies, these are smaller vehicles. But CDL training is how to do the big rigs and the maintenance and stuff. But they also teach them a lot of practices of how to make sure they're stopping with enough distance, and how to be aware of different road conditions, and
Hmm.
all those type of
Hmm.
things that is beneficial to the company. So that's the first thing. Even though there's shortcuts and hacks and ways to finesse the system, don't take
Right.
them. Resist them, learn
Yeah.
about them, because
Yeah.
it's one of those things too. You don't want to know a shortcut and not
Hmm.
know how to do it if you had to do it the long way.
Right.
It's okay to take the shortcut if you knew how to do it the long way, but just don't
Hmm.
get surprised when you took that shortcut and now someone's expecting you, okay, to go back and revisit this, and you're like, why am I revisiting it? I didn't even know it existed. And
Right.
so you got to do your research. Even again, just getting the truck, getting the authority and all that, that's just the beginning. You have to have a
Hmm.
long-term plan. That first year, like any business, any type of business, it's going to be your most challenging year, but especially in trucking, that's when you're under the microscope of
Absolutely.
FMCSA. And so you have to have, and you've given them permission because it's a government entity to get
Hmm.
in your
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
So you got to have your business right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what are some of the challenges that you see um, trucking companies face from an insurance perspective?
Definitely that shortcut. I mean,
Hmm.
it's the shortcuts. It's not really thinking, how are you going to deal with a situation that you created today, but it doesn't show up for another 3 months. An example is, you may start your policy bare bones, bare minimum, just to get going.
Hmm.
But are you prepared to do what it takes to actually get running? When you
Yeah.
start bare minimums and you've cut off all these coverages, are you ready to put them on? Some people really feel like, oh, all I need is just that opportunity to get rolling. But some of them are
Right.
cutting it so far down. You've
Yeah.
cut it so far down that why did you even start now? I was just jokingly saying with one of my other insurance friends, I said, it feels like they're putting insurance on layaway. You put money towards something that you still can't use, so why
Wow.
did you
Wow.
do that? Because
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
order to get going, you're still going to have to come up with the difference. And now
Hmm.
you've put
Hmm.
yourself under pressure and under the gun of, if you don't get it done in a certain way in time, because time is really what insurance is about.
Yeah.
You've kind of shot yourself in the foot. And if you mess up, a lot of people think too, oh, I'll just start something over. It's kind of hard to, because
That
there's a
easy.
lot of
Yeah.
back office stuff that goes on to attach your name, your address, your location, your
Mhm.
situation to that
Mhm.
DOT, that when you try to come back up again, like, oh yeah, I'm just brushing that off, I'm just gonna
Yeah.
start again,
Yeah.
you've been flagged. They actually have a name for it. When I first learned about it, I was like, that's a weird name, but chameleon. They
Yeah.
call you a
Yeah.
chameleon carrier, and
Mhm.
that will give you
Coming under
difficulty.
all these other, yeah.
Right. All
Yeah.
you did was just change colors, change
Mhm.
this, but they can
I
see
see it all the
patterns.
time.
They
Yeah.
see
It's
patterns.
unfortunate. Wow. That's unfortunate. When, we have, from a recruiting perspective, when we're recruiting for small fleet owners, or we're talking to small fleet owners that are looking to get into the industry and they're wanting to talk to us about recruiting, we're we're talking to them about the the financial aspect, okay? Because you have to buy your truck, you have to get the insurance. There's so many variables that could happen, and then the last thing I think they think about is the driver. Um,
It's true.
and you taught me something that, early on I wasn't aware of, like, the length of time, the date of issue of the license, the date of
Mhm.
issue of the CDL license, and that really plays a part in the price of the license, of the insurance, what it's going to be.
Right. More so than equipment, your rated driver influences your policy.
Yes.
The equipment has, of course, expensive versus not expensive. It does have some bearing, as well as, some other factors that we'll talk about here tonight. But one of the top factors that people, like you said, miss calculate for is that driver. Experience matters, same state licensing matters,
Mm,
age matters. There's kind of a little hit list of a preferred ideal for most carriers, and each carrier actually has a different preference because of
right.
just their loss history ratio. Everything about insurance too is factual. It may seem like we're just kind of making things up, but there's a
Yeah.
history, and they're taking data. And even with this new ELD mandate, it's
Hmm.
big data. They're
Yeah.
collectively seeing what are the patterns so we can charge and make sure that we always end
Mm,
up on that even kill. When catastrophe happens, they have to pay. Insurance has to pay.
right.
You can't say we won't pay this time. But the only other way they can actually prepare for that is they said, okay, summer storms, winter storms rather, that happens around this time of year, rates are just going to be naturally higher. Because if we happen to see that same pattern again, we're prepared.
How
So
often, I was going to say, how often do they, make those changes to the rates? I have owners that tell me that they're paying, $1,800, $1,900, 18,000 to, 25,000 a year
mhm.
on insurance. Like, should we anticipate an increase in the near future?
Probably so, because
Mm,
the numbers and impact, and again data from what's been happened just last year hasn't
right.
impacted the market yet.
Yeah.
They're trying to see, is this that once in a lifetime type pandemic, or is this possibly, still going to continue next year?
Hmm.
And so the
Hmm.
data's not there, but kind of what we're seeing with the renewals just so far this year, staying the same was actually good. If you
Hmm.
didn't have an
Hmm.
increase, you actually was doing good. Most people saw an increase. And so that's going to probably be the trend for at least the rest of this year, because they're statistically looking at where we were last year. And like I said,
Got it.
last month was kind of the beginning of all the closures. So,
Right.
what they're seeing insurance wise was a lot of people couldn't pay insurance. What happens in, April? And
Hmm.
so they're just preparing, oh, our rates need to be a little higher because statistically it showed last April we struggled.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
yeah, so I mean it's all statistics, and that's where the zip code matters. Yeah, all of it's statistics and such. So
Got
that's
it.
why it's so important too that we share this type of information with one
Yes,
another, because we don't want to be a statistic. We
absolutely.
don't want to be the reason why the next person, and even the people around us, because that's what happens. They
Hmm.
see a success story in our community, and then we get our kids in it, we get our cousins in it, and
Yep.
everybody becomes part of it because now you done worked out the kinks. But what if you
Right.
failed? That
Mhm.
same waterfall effects happens. You
Exactly. Like a
failed,
trickle down.
right? The next person, I don't want to do trucking. I'm not doing
Hmm.
it either, and they could be missing their blessing,
Right,
in getting
right,
into this
right.
field. So.
Absolutely, absolutely. I want to just touch in with our audience. We do have a few members on our Facebook groups and the Facebook pages, as well as our YouTube. Welcome, YouTube listeners. If you guys have any questions for Lotta in regards to trucking insurance, definitely drop them in the comments, and we will definitely I'll get them on so that she can answer them. Um, so I want to talk about like what are your experiences with box trucks? Do you do a lot of box trucks and cargo vans? I know there's a lot of box truck drivers out there and owners and new people entering the industry with the box truck, the cargo vans. We have a fleet of cargo vans. And so tell us a little bit about what you're seeing with regards to the box trucks, the cargo vans, and things like that. Are they different from the truck from the rigs?
Yes and no. So it's price. Not pricing, but age of the unit is probably more
Mm,
important. You want to have a newer box truck and cargo van versus your big rigs that you can kind of 10 years is okay, or you
yeah,
can get away with
yeah,
10 years. But with a 10-year-old box truck, it's ready to go ahead and be put to
yes,
rest.
yes. Put it to
And
the pasture.
yes, and so that really matters. Now the pricing, is going to be different, for what you pay for a 10-year-old big rig. You're probably paying, the same amount for same year box truck. So you kind of
Mhm,
even out on that. And I think that's probably where the rates kind of even out as well. That's a trend
mm,
I'm seeing. But again, experience matters. Most people think, I'm getting into the box truck because I want to be the one behind the wheel and I don't need a CDL
right,
driver and I'm
right.
just going to kind of do this. That's fine. If that's what you want to run, how you want to run your business, but having a CDL licensed driver of 4 years or more experience is going to give you a better discount. And so if
Mm-hmm.
you want to think of it in that realm, and also their experience factor, because you can't really tell with the personal license how well someone drives.
Right.
I have a 20-year-old and
Yes. Yes.
yes,
Yes.
he has a
Same here.
license too. So, you can't tell really how well a person drives. Yes, you can run their MVR, the things show up, but what about all the accidents they skirted? My dad
Mm-hmm.
used to kind of joke and he told me the story, but I didn't really get it until I got to be an adult because he was really talking about me, saying, that little old lady who's causing all the havoc around her. She
Yeah.
said she's a perfect driver, but it's because everybody else around you
Around
is,
her.
yeah, veering off the road and everything. They're trying to be protective of her.
Yeah.
And she's just in her own little world thinking, I just drive so good and stuff. And I'm thinking, yeah, I haven't had an accident. He said, yeah, you're that little old lady. And I'm like, what?
You're causing all the
You're
accidents.
causing the accidents. I'm,
Yeah.
stopping abruptly and I'm distracted and things like
Right.
that. But yes, so the
Yeah.
same thing with the box trucks, people get in and then just the time. I mean, it's
Right.
just the business. I just really know what the business is. I mean, if you didn't really care for Uber as far as just being in a truck or a car all day, that's what trucking is. You're in that
That's exactly
vehicle
what it
all
is.
day, all
Yes.
day, and you're having people load, unload. Sometimes you're the one loading and unloading. And I
Yeah.
don't think a lot of people realize that. All they were like, okay, I could actually just get paid for delivering, driving here and driving there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but you have maybe something that doesn't smell so pleasant sitting in the back of your truck, and you have to go
Yes.
through 4 hours of taking,
Smelling it. Yes.
the fertilizer
Wow.
to where it needs to go. So I mean,
Yes.
you got to think
Yes.
about those kind of things because that's what
That's realities.
for is
Yeah.
trucking.
Definitely. Definitely. So what do you tell um the owner of a fleet of trucks that, they bought some trucks and they've got some drivers, but they're thinking about going out to get their license themselves. What do you tell them?
That's an interesting one because that's
Hmm.
really an argument right there. Because, like you said, for the
I know.
same
That's
thing
why.
I've said, they're like, "Oh, so then it means I need to go get my CDL." Yes and no. So again, experience. You having a brand new CDL does you no good. In fact, it can harm you because what experience you are now showing is you have none. You have
Yeah,
formal training, so that's a little bit of an advantage. But
yeah.
2 years or less CDL drivers, it is very difficult to be the primary driver of a smaller carrier because you're going to
Mhm.
get rated more harshly. Now, that's why a lot of your new right out of school students go to the big companies because they have a lot of these safety measures. You're with a trainer and all these other things, even after you've gotten your CDL. So they have a lot of safety measures to make sure they can absorb some of that insurance cost. And so that's the thing that smaller carriers don't have that is an
Mhm.
advantage is that safety program of how do you make sure your inexperienced driver doesn't get into trouble. Are you
Mhm.
having consultations? What all are you doing to make sure those things don't happen?
Mhm.
So
Mhm. Okay.
sometimes, or yeah, it can hurt you. Now, the recommendation is to kind of sit your CDL for the 2 years. If you're the
Mhm.
owner, you get it. Again, you're hiring CDL drivers. As I said, 4 years or more experience is key. At least 2 years though, to be able to be a reasonable rate. But just hold on to your CDL. But it does have to be disclosed. You only have one license. You don't have to switch licenses. You
Gotcha.
have just one license. It's either a
Gotcha.
CDL or a non-CDL.
Right. So the driver that's working for the small fleet owner that recently got a ticket, how soon does that affect the rate of the insurance? They recently got a ticket, or they maybe got two in a row. What are some of the things that affect it, and how soon does that impact? Is it immediate impact to the rate? Does it go up right away, or is it something that you know in a little bit of time it will?
In a little bit of time. Pricing only comes up when there's material changes.
Oh,
So
okay.
if you're adding, if this driver just had the accident and now they're a new driver to your company, yes, it matters then. But if
Okay.
they've been driving for your company a while and the accident happened in their personal vehicle, you're okay until renewal. And then
Okay.
renewal comes and it's the, hey, what happened to your accident? Because you
Mm,
can contest it.
hmm.
Like let's say speeding tickets more so than accidents, you can contest it. There's, different things you could do to keep it off your record. And for
Hmm.
CDL holders, that's very important. You got to have that clean record. That's how
Yeah,
they're making their living. And what you do in
absolutely.
your personal vehicle reflects on your
Reflects.
CDL.
Absolutely. Do you see a lot of does defensive driving help in any
In,
form or
in the
fashion from
personal
a
side,
commercial on the commercial
commercial,
side?
I haven't had to really see it much. So commercial uses an underwriting tool called Clue. So
Okay.
I can't remember what Clue stands for, but it's part of LexisNexis. It's kind of like
Okay.
the credit bureau of sort
Mm-hmm.
for
Mm-hmm.
a business. And
Got
so
it.
the clue report's going to kind of pick up on somebody's driving records, the different things they have on there. So if there's disputes that need to be made, it needs to kind of go through them to get it totally cleared. So I usually just kind of refer people to check with Clue, um,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't deal with it more than that because
Mm-hmm.
I kind of have to tell it depends who it is too, because if it's that
Right.
owner's record that's messing everything up, I tell them, hey, your record is actually costing, you more than what the average person. And then I just leave it up to them to solve that solution. Do you get a
What can
partner
they
in your business?
do
Get
in
a
that is?
partner. I've seen people get partners
Oh,
and have
okay.
a partner with more experience, clean record, a husband and wife. You can kind of turn that table around,
Got it.
so different things like that I've seen them
That's
do.
interesting. Yeah, I hadn't even thought about it from that perspective. That's good.
Because you
That's good.
have to have a rated driver. You
Gotcha.
have to, again, be part of the policy, but you could be excluded. But
Mm,
that also means you are not going to be protected when you're behind the wheel. Therefore, you shouldn't be behind the wheel of your vehicle. So,
of
yeah, but
course. Yeah.
again, to yeah, so I mean, to save that cost, sometimes that's what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to be that operational manager from the desk
Hmm.
because your record needs some time to chill out.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
You need some waiting time. You
you
need some
do.
wait.
You need some waiting
Wow.
time in the office.
Wow. Well, exactly. No, no more getting behind the wheel. So DOT coverages. What does DOT require? And is it the same across the board for, 18 wheelers, box trucks, cargo? Like, what is the requirement?
So it's all based off how that authority is set up. So if you don't have an authority yet, you have to think a lot about that on the forefront because I know people like to kind of maybe get a quote beforehand and just see what it is to see if this is
Right.
something that they want to do.
Right.
That's fine, but your quote isn't going to be as tight or clean as if when you go ahead and register your DOT. It won't change drastically unless you just don't have that communication with, making those changes. It's like you tell me one thing and then you go to the computer and have fun with
Yeah.
something else.
Yeah.
It's going to be brought back up because before we're able to issue the policy, it's going to be like, you said they lived in Texas. This says Louisiana. It does.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so starting off with that, going through the application actually of the DOT
Mhm.
authority, it's going to set those insurance requirements. So one of the first things is interstate or intrastate. Are you going across state lines or are you staying within the same state? Each state has different requirements. So here in Texas, the Texas only requirement is 500,000.
Mm.
Most people like to get $1 million combined liability, and that's not the requirement. 750 is the federal requirement. So if
Mhm.
you want to
Okay.
just kind of have that basic federal requirement, is 750,000. But most people, if they're going to do federal interstate coverage, they do the million and everything. Most of your brokers are going to ask for $1 million, but that's one of the first big indicators. What the type of commodities that you haul? I know everybody says, "Oh, general freight," and I've
Yeah, they
kind of
do.
learned that
That's the
to
thing.
mean
General freight.
right,
Yeah.
and it's like, what is that? It kind of I'm learning that language of that means they don't know either, and so I ask them, what have you thought of? What have you seen? And a lot of them will be truthful. Well, I'm really not
I
sure.
just don't
I've
know.
looked
Yeah.
at the load boards. I'm attracted to the numbers, and it's like, okay, but if you notice those numbers, it's heavier, freight. It might be
Mhm.
stuff that needs, to be packed in there just right. Might be,
Right.
there's usually a reason. There's a good bounty on something. It's because it's more difficult or has to go further. So, knowing what it is you're going to haul is going to really help you narrow down those exposures and really get you the better requirements and rate. But all you have to go active is just your liability. Just like with your personal insurance, you just
Okay.
need the street legal liability, the thing that protects the public from you. That's all you need to show proof of. Coverages like cargo, physical damage, general liability, those other coverages are
Hmm.
very excellent coverages, highly
Right.
recommended, but they're not required to get started.
Hmm.
So I quote them all together because, like I was saying earlier, a lot of people are like, just give me the liability. Let me just,
Right.
get started.
Right. Yeah.
But in order to get going, you're doing this to haul things, right? That means that's
Yeah.
cargo. You're
Yeah.
going to need
Yeah.
cargo. But there's so many different situations because someone could decide
Yes.
to go get leased on under someone else,
Right.
and that other company might cover the cargo for them. So there's different reasons why it's not required of every authority. But
Right.
that's why you have to have that conversation. You have to really have that think partner of what are some of the things you could do with trucking. Where are you even positioned in the nation? What type of freight comes your way?
Right.
And those conversations will really help you be more intentional with your application, and that way you're getting just the coverages you're needing to protect your business operation.
Right, and not nothing more. But you mentioned lease on, and I think that's an important thing to kind of go into a bit. Now, when they lease on with an operator, and the operator, and we deal with this a lot, the operator covers the cargo, the liability. Um, but they still have to get something for the truck, and they can get that usually with the company. They can get that through their own, personal insurance. Tell me, is bobtail insurance like still a thing? Is that a
Still a
thing
thing, but
still? I hear.
the term bobtail would
Mhm.
be a little more outdated. But
Okay.
so technically, it's called non-trucking liability. So it
Mm,
means it's like the secondary coverage, like you said,
okay.
to cover damages that occur to a truck liability wise when you're off load. Um,
Mm,
so that's kind of when things get, you have to really understand how a claim is paid out, or even the questions that go into it. One of the first questions in an accident report, and even like your personal accident report, and people wonder, why people want to know that, because it becomes evidence. But where were you doing? What were you doing? Where are you going? And people are like, they're so nosy. That's part of that,
right,
because
right,
it's
right.
like, were you on your way to work? Were you
Yeah.
coming off of work? Because if you were in the line of duty, in a transportation company, you are technically on the clock. So you are
Hmm.
under your employers in this situation's coverage, their insurance. So their insurance has to protect you and cover you. So, but if you're off the clock, you're riding around to, McDonald's, or going to see somebody yeah, in a big rig. I don't know.
Right,
People do
right.
things.
Is there people they do that?
They do that. Somewhere they do that. But if you were kind of joyriding, trying to check out town or whatever, you're
Yeah.
not on the clock. But when you have those damages, now, the company can say you left the job. That's
Right,
you.
right.
And
Mm,
you don't have any protection because you
mhm.
were just driving around. And so that's where that non-trucking liability comes in. It gives you
Got it.
about the same limits to be street legal, because you're now behind the wheel of a huge vehicle. So you have to have
Mhm.
protection. Having
That
those
makes sense.
additional coverages like physical damage to cover the outside of the vehicle and everything, especially if it's your truck to begin with and you're leased on somewhere else, that's
Mhm.
again a coverage you want to have and add to it. It does increase your premium, and it is optional. If you
Mm.
have a paid off truck, some people forego that. But again,
Mhm.
if you have an incident, something other than an accident, a rock coming through the windshield, a scratch
Right.
along the side, though you have to pay that out of pocket because you don't have physical damage coverage.
Gotcha. So a lot of really good information about the trucking and the 18 wheeler, the box truck, the cargo van fleet size. I want to talk about another aspect of insurance, and that's the business side. Okay, so for our brokers that are listening, our dispatchers, recruiters, to be able to protect ourselves from errors and mistakes and things like that that can be made. And sometimes it's not a matter of if, it's when, because their mistakes happen. All right. So what are some of the things that we can do to be able to protect our businesses, our employees, and things like that?
The same thing applies, having a structure written out, if you would, so you know how you operate. How do you interact with if you're a dispatcher? How are you representing yourself, and how do you operate for your carrier? The more organized you are, and everybody that you accept as a carrier fills out a carrier packet. You have copies of their insurance, their credit card authorizations are on file that don't get out to everybody else. Those
Right.
are things that First Line covers you. As far as additional coverages with insurance, you can have errors and admissions insurance, and it's actually really affordable. $1 million policy on average. It does take into account what type of, how you do your business, but on average, you're looking at about, between $30 to $80 a month. And that gives you $1 million of protection. Should, like Ms. Jerry said, someone come back and say, you know what, you cost me money because you sent me over here and I don't agree that you didn't send that on time. And even though you have like your email trail, you can show that you've done that. Anyone can initiate a lawsuit for little to no
Wow.
money, and when you're getting those bills, you're being threatened. Your peace of mind of, oh
Yeah.
man, do I have everything in here, versus, you know what, I have an insurance policy. I'm
Right.
going to go ahead and submit the claim. Of course, the insurance policy is going to ask for, how do you do your business? Why would they say that? Is this common? They're going to do their research, but there's you got $1 million worth of money in different pockets to protect you for a court case, to protect you for medical claims, to protect you for damage to property that doesn't belong to you. So let's say, one of your box trucks pulls into a warehouse and, someone was in back loading it up and they tripped and fell, and that injury is, causes them to miss a couple of days of work. And all they remember is that DOT number that was last year, that truck that was last year. They're not thinking about their job that, there, because they may have tried that already. They may have tried that, and that job has said, you know what, that didn't happen here. Or they're scared to even apply. But
I bet that
all they
happens a
did,
lot.
I'm pretty sure, because you know how that can be. You're trying to stand up for your rights at work, but others might feel a little different on how you're approaching that. They may feel a little threatened and intimidated, but all they know is I can file a claim against that DOT. And so that's why, as different people are aware that you have insurance, they do try you. And that's why these trucking carriers are moving targets on the road. And you hear it, on everywhere you go. The truck attorney, call us. You've been hit by a truck.
There's billboards
Right.
everywhere.
And they make a lot of money because they know minimum there was a couple $100,000 policy behind that person operating, because it's mandatory. So they're going to try to get that and then some. Even though $1 million sounds like a lot, by the time lawyers get to it, you're owing probably $4 million. And all you took out was a $1 million policy. Wow. That $3 million can actually be garnished to you, for future wages. And so here you are paying off $3 million and you hadn't made that yet, so that's the danger of being too underinsured. And also, like you said, all of this kind of works hand in hand, because you have to have that back office structure. You have to have the structure to support the policy. You can't be out willy-nilly just saying, I'm going to cuss everyone out, or I'm going to take these credit card authorizations and show everybody on social media, look at my client.
Wow.
You're not going to have insurance cover you. They're going to drop you. They're probably going to sue you. But, you have to have your own policies and procedures to support that. That's why insurance goes so well with legal, but it's not legal in its own sense. That's why it's part of a compliance package, but it's not compliance, because there's certain things, I was just talking to someone about this, that you could do. You could purchase an insurance policy. No one's going to stop you. They're just going to be like, sure, buy that. Yeah, you might want to buy this too. But when it comes time to pay, that's what a whole claims department is. That's what a lot of people get upset behind insurance, because you're like, how in the world did I pay my premiums and now I've got a busted window, and you're saying I owe? Yes. What kind of coverages? How was it? Did you put your truck in the middle of a baseball field and said, I don't know how that thing got busted? There's a claims process, because unfortunately so many people have committed fraud that had to happen. And so that's why you have to understand what your policy will do for you, in that time of need. And it's not just blanket. It's not just because you have it. It's the forever insurance blanket of protection, and I can go out and do whatever I want. You have to kind of be aware of what those triggers are. And that's what, as agents and just really teaching people about insurance, It says this, here's the different pockets of money, because unless you ask, there's actually limitations on how much they'll pay in each
Right.
situation. You can ask for it, and that's commonly known, what they call the million combined single limit, which means it's just
Okay.
a big pot of $1 million versus 100,000 per person. But if person one only had 20,000 and person two had 120, do I get to
Mhm.
borrow some of theirs? No. Person one was taken care of. Person number two is going to sue you. So,
Mm.
that's kind of how traditionally it's stacked and everything like that. But like you said, who reads that fine print? Who goes over
Yeah.
that? It's a lot of
Yeah. It is a
information.
lot.
And unfortunately, when things happen is usually when people get educated on it. But
Hmm. Hmm.
if you kind of share that, I do use a lot of owner operators. We're here in the Northeast, snow happens.
Yeah.
So how would this happen? What does this look? Should I have? Yes. If you're up in the Northeast, you need to have physical damage because weather. And
Right.
you don't
Right.
want
Right.
a tree falling on your truck and then you can't make loads and you're wondering how come the insurance won't cover it if you don't have physical damage.
Exactly.
So those type of things.
Wow. Interesting. Very interesting. Well, definitely, I definitely see the need to marry the insurance, the insurance that you have, as well as the professional insurance coverage as well. Definitely. So we have a some of our audience members that are watching, guys. If you have any questions for Lotta, before we let her go, make sure you drop your questions in the comments box. And if you're catching the replay, please drop the questions in. I'll make sure that Lotta gets them and can answer them for you guys in the chat or on the comment section on our Life on the Road Recruiting YouTube page. So just a couple of other things that I'm going to let you get back to your evening. So like your network, I know you have a huge platform, groups that you moderate. Kind of share with us your trucking network. I know your focus is insurance, but what else can we call you to get support with?
Great question, and it's kind of a transitional period for me because, like I said, all I knew from my sales and previous business experience is you have to have a customer to have a business. So
Facts.
I've always been very sensitive to first finding someone with a need and then going to learn and having that. How do you meet the need that exists? Not how do I create something beautiful and then get them to come. It doesn't happen like that. They're not burgers. And
Right.
so I I created a marketing company, and I really kind of think marketing is my bigger thing. But marketing also allowed flexibility to be able to help celebrate all of us in trucking. So my marketing company is My Own Lane Consultants, and just like that says, we can all network and communicate with each other in our own lane. When you're secure with who you are, you're not challenged with talking to someone else who could be
Yes,
an insurance person too, because
absolutely.
there's going to be things that are for me and things that are for you that are for you. But if we can have a network and partner with each other, we're stronger together because now there's two of us going into it and now we can share. So that's really been my heart with social media moderation, is just making sure people, as they're sharing information, that it gets to everybody, because
Hmm.
unless you're kind of connected, you're not going to get the advisement of so and so went live. You're
Right.
not going to know, because actually that's what Facebook is really doing right now. They say they're kind of shutting out for all the noise, and to some degree I agree, because you
Hmm.
don't want everything coming into your feed. If you're wanting
Yeah.
to have Facebook for your family, I respect that and stuff. But if you're not out there looking at the things that you are truly interested in, it will no longer come in your feed. So
True.
if you say you're out there looking for trucking connections and you never look for that, then Facebook never knows that that's
Won't
the type of
recognize
stuff
it.
you
Yeah,
like. They'll keep
that's
sending
true.
you TikTok videos, but
Very true.
you have to stay engaged, and everybody's getting a little more conscious about that. So I also like it because it gives I would say the underdog. You're not gonna find per se, how did you know this freight broker was doing the awesome job he or she is doing? They might not use social media all the time. They might only have a few posts, but
Yeah,
we can collectively learn about them and celebrate them. And it just gives more authentic content because now
love
this
it.
is someone I can talk to. Because, a lot of those celebrities, I'll call them on Facebook, they don't answer, or they have people,
Right. They
and
have
so
people that
right,
answer
you're
for
trying
them on their behalf.
reach out to them and they're just like, we'll get back to you. Or it's a bot, even. It's not even a
Yeah.
person,
Yeah,
So
that's
I
true.
really like authentic connections, connecting more people. So we're starting a YouTube channel. I was
I
inspired to
love it.
actually go ahead and do it. I thought about it a while, but God also allowed me to employ my son, we're finally at this point where we're making enough money to be
Yes.
able to do that. And
Yes. I
so
love it.
he is on staff. He's doing a great job, and he's my graphic designer.
I
So
love it.
just getting it up and going. But we're looking for people to share their stories in transportation from whatever seat they're in. They could be a spouse because that's an important thing too. When their
Yes.
driver
Very.
is on the road, they're thinking about being home. And if they have to worry about what happens when they're not at home, that's stress for them on the road. They're not focused, all that other stuff.
Yeah.
um,
Absolutely.
Brokers, drivers, everybody, because it's a big ecosystem of trucking. Like I said, I'm in insurance, she's recruiting. There really are rare occasions where we would meet, but yet here we
Absolutely.
are. And
Absolutely.
to be able to understand what she has going on and she to understand how insurance, and driver recruitment for smaller fleets, how that works, we're now better able to do our jobs. But
Right.
you
Right.
wouldn't think to go out there and do that unless you just kind of leave it open. And that's really what I've just done. I was just saying,
Absolutely.
order my path
Absolutely.
and just great people come, and I'm
Uh-huh.
just so grateful for it. And I don't take this lightly. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. Very, very informative. A lot of really, really good information. So tell our audience, like where can they find you? How can they get in contact with you for their insurance needs, for their marketing needs? I mean, anything that you have going on and also what kind of upcoming events that you have that you're going to be participating in. I know I want you in June. I'll give you all the details very, very soon. I'll be releasing them. So kind of share that.
So again, my name is kind of unique, but on Facebook, I'm Ladda Love Hawkins. So just, I think I'm the only one. I don't know. We'll see. But that's the easiest way to reach me. I use Facebook and Messenger like my phone. LRMC Trucking. With trucking, everything's so again sensitive to all these different factors. It usually works best if you could just do an application, then I can have that conversation with you once I already plug in the numbers, because I kind of already know you don't want to just talk about everything just off the
Right.
top. You want to talk about money usually by the time you talk to me. So let's go ahead and run a quote. We could tweak it afterwards. So running a quote, doing a quote doesn't make it a final quote. So having that conversation of ways to save comes usually after that initial quote, so we can see the type of things that appear, what the going rate is, and be
Hmm.
more educated that way to learn kind of how to come up with a strategy to save. But so Facebook Messenger, LRMC Trucking, through Facebook Messenger and a lot of my social media, I actually share my phone number. I'll share it too. I try to do the separate number thing. I forget, and I'll be like, look. But I'm here in Dallas, Texas. My number is 817-716-1868. So that's 817-716-1868. I'm a texter because a lot of times I do talk. And so at any given moment, I might be on the other line. But if you text me, I get right back with you.
Got it.
Regardless.
Got it. Awesome.
Different events. This Saturday, I am going to be on Instagram Live with the cheat code. They're also Dallas based. Eric
Okay.
Ball, Marcus Jones, Damian Jones, and I don't know the young lady's name, and
The
I do
trucking
apologize.
cheat code. Trucking
Yes, the
cheat code.
trucking cheat code,
Got it.
yes. So,
Yes.
just there to answer insurance questions as they go through their class of how to get started in the industry. At the end of the month, I'll be in Houston on the 24th and 25th with HCA dispatching part of their insurance panel. And I'm open if you have a group of people that you want me to talk to, just like tonight, have questions about insurance. I'll be glad. Just connect with me, and we'll get it on my schedule and such.
Yes.
So yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, any parting words that you want to leave with the audience? Anything from insurance, from trucking? Like, what would you like to impart on our viewers?
Just that we're all connected to this industry. I thought education was big, but trucking is that industry that I think COVID highlighted how much we
Yes.
need truckers.
Yes. Yes.
Stores, even the ice storms out here in Texas, it highlighted without truckers, we are without. And so the internet can be here and we can be doing as much business, but it's not real until it's in our stores, in our surroundings and such. So truckers and especially our drivers, we got to take care of them. I mean, and I
Right.
commend you guys, the drivers out there, that you
Yes.
guys are the heart of the industry. And
Absolutely.
my father served in the military, my fiance served in the military. And so I think I've just always been drawn to that service mentality. And that's what it feels like with truckers,
Yes. It
hot heat,
is.
daytime, nighttime, because who likes to get up at 2 in the morning to go to work? That's what a trucker does. And they're on the road, away from family, all those sacrifices just so you can
Yes.
get Amazon in 2 hours or less, It's
Right.
spoiled
Right.
and such. But I
They
commend
make
the
that happen.
drivers.
Thank
They
you.
do. I actually got one of my things. I'm kind of bad on Amazon, but
Me
it said it
too.
was gonna come Saturday, and it came today, and I'm like, what?
Oh
I
my
loved
God.
it. Yes. So,
Wow.
and they were talking about they were trying to make more and more stuff one day, and especially
Mm.
here in Dallas, and Texas overall, I learned that we had like 8 hubs, 6 or 8
Yes.
hubs.
Yes.
That's
It's huge.
crazy.
It's
And
huge.
so
Yeah.
that's my parting words. I mean, let's take care of our drivers. They're the heart of the industry, and the industry impacts us all. So we all are involved in one way or another. Let's have these conversations of how we can support each other.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. I'll just, kind of piggyback on there. If you got it, if it's in the stores, if it's in your home, a trucker brought it to you. So, and we thank our truckers over here at Life on the Road Recruiting. Definitely, Lotta, thank you so much for joining me. As always, it's a pleasure talking to you. I'm just so glad that we connected. So glad that, you and I are able to share our respective platforms and be able to share the information that we have for our viewers. So thanks again, and it was truly a pleasure to have you join on our Life on the Road recruiting platform.
I had fun. Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. Like I said, if you have any questions for Lotta, make sure you drop it in the comments. I do have her number right here on the screen. If you want to reach out to her, feel free to do that. Got any insurance questions, transportation questions, definitely reach out to her. So again, thank you, Lotta. Thank
Thank
you
you.
guys for watching, and have an awesome evening.
All right.
Bye.
Be blessed. Bye.